Say cheese! Cheese! Good boy! Sleeping. Okay, so I'm going to try and film this whilst the baby sleeps, but if he wakes up then he can just be part of it. So, welcome to Rory's 2-month update and my mummy 2-month postpartum update. So, mummy and baby 2-month update basically. We are actually nearing 10 weeks, so I'm a little bit late, so it'll be 10 weeks. By the time this video goes up, Rory will be 10 weeks and I'll be 10 weeks postpartum, obviously. So yeah, so it'll be a little bit late and it'll be incorporating kind of 2 weeks of those 2 weeks too. I haven't done on YouTube, I didn't do the 1 month update, but I did do weeks 1, 2 and 3 on my blog, and I think I missed 4 weeks because that was when I was taking a break over Christmas and stuff. So this 2-month update will kind of be like a whole general roundup, and then I will probably just try and be consistent with the next, like up to 1, probably do his monthly updates until he is 1. Okay, so generally Rory is a pretty happy, content little baby. If you took him out to a shop or something, or if you took him to a restaurant, he's really well behaved, will like not really make a peep. He really enjoys kind of like commotion and lots of noise, and I think that's got a lot to do with the fact that technically within the house he is almost a third child, because Rory has got an older half sister and half brother, which are here part-time, like half the time. And obviously, so Imogen, his half-sister, is 7 and Ben, his half-brother, is 4, so not the quietest of children at that age, and also like not on purpose but like quite not boisterous, it's not the right word, but they're not the most delicate thing, children. So Rory is often like picked up and stuff, and that's fine because I think it's good for him and it's good for them, and they absolutely adore each other. Like Rory always finds his older siblings hilarious and they are obsessed with him. So he kind of has that where he's already kind of like a third child, so he kind of settles really well with lots of noise and lots of things going on around him, so that kind of works out really nicely. Like if I were to go and get a coffee or something, that's kind of him and his element, like lots and lots of background noise. Yeah, so he's quite a good baby generally. Like it's hard because he's my first, like I'm a first time mum, so I don't really know what to benchmark him against when it comes to being a newborn. I would say he is clingy, but also I don't think it's a trait of his. I think he's just a newborn baby. I think like if you look into the 4th trimester and all this research about babies kind of wanting to be attached to their mums and wanting that security, I think he's completely in line with that. He doesn't like to be put down too much. Like it's a miracle at the moment that he's having a nap without me. We are kind of finding little hacks and stuff as to get him to be put down and nap on his own, and we are getting there, definitely. But the main kind of thing that really works is to have him in a baby sling, and just to carry him around all day and just to let him kind of come with me and do chores. Otherwise I would get nothing done. From about 3 weeks onwards he started to have this, so I think a lot of it had to do with his stomach ache, which I'll go into soon. But he started to have like problems not feeding, like he would still feed, but what I thought was colic, but we'll go into it later. So from then he didn't really want to put it down because he wanted constant comfort because he was in pain, and then it's just kind of carried on from there where he just didn't want to be put down for a nap. If you held him and he fell asleep and then you put him down on the sofa, he would just wake up straight away. But he is kind of coming out of that. He has started to enjoy a bit of independence and to want to be like playing and put down on his activity mat, and like every now and again I'll get like 10-minute chunks where I'll just like quickly go and clean the bathroom whilst he's on his activity mat, or he'll sit in his bouncer now and let me wash my hair, which has never ever happened before. So we're definitely getting there. I would completely agree, like when people say to you it gets easier, like when you have a newborn, it definitely gets easier. However, that is the worst advice ever. When you have like a 2-week-old baby screaming in your face and you don't know what's wrong with it, you don't want to hear that it's going to get better. You want to know what to do now, but it does get better. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about and update on is feeding. Feeding has been really challenging from the start. He is bottle fed. I'd always decided he was going to be bottle fed during pregnancy. I do have some regrets about not trying breastfeeding. Like I do really wish I'd tried it, and I was adamant I wasn't going to try it. Rory is lactose intolerant, so breastfeeding was never going to work out anyway, but I just kind of wish that I'd had that experience. So yeah, feeding, that kind of brings me on to what I'm going to talk about. So initially from 3 weeks we thought Rory had colic because he just started to cry a lot. However, I kind of ruled out colic quite quickly because he didn't have like a witching hour. It would just be after a feed he would cry. You'd feed him, he'd just cry in pain and you wouldn't know how to settle him. He'd bring up his wind really well. He's always been really good at bringing up wind, so I just didn't know, I didn't think it was colic because he was bringing up the wind. So then I thought maybe it was reflux because he did go through a phase of like, yeah, so I didn't really know. I thought maybe it was reflux. Oh, and he was like really gulping down his bottle, so I thought maybe it was reflux or silent reflux because he wasn't being sick with it. They gave me baby Gaviscon at the doctor's. That didn't really do anything, so I ruled out reflux. I had tried Infocol, Detinox, gripe water, all things to kind of settle him down, and then came across Colleaf, which did work quite well. It definitely helped. Colleaf's really expensive, so I went to the doctor to go and ask if we could have it on prescription, and the doctor then told me that all Colleaf really does is break down the lactose content of milk, and so we said, instead of trying Colleaf still, why don't you try lactose-free milk and see how he gets on and see if he's intolerant to lactose. I really didn't think that he would be and just ruled it out, and then kind of looked at the symptoms, and the symptoms were like swollen tummy, lots and lots of blow-offs, diarrhea, which I, obviously as a new mum, didn't know he was having diarrhea. I just assumed he had really bad baby poos, because every time he would fart, he would poo, basically. It just followed through with it, and we were going through so many nappies every single day, but I just assumed that he was a baby. So then thought like I'd try it. The first day of lactose-free milk was hell, and then the second day he was a completely different baby. The first kind of signal that I would say is like shows that he has some kind of lactose problem is that like his first poo on lactose-free milk was like an adult poo. It completely changed. His tummy was less swollen. He didn't cry after a feed. He brought up his wind really nicely, and I didn't realise how far he'd come on until this week we were told to start reintroducing normal formula back into his feeds, a scoop at a time, and my baby has been hell, like not on purpose. He's just been in a lot of pain, and as a mum it's so hard to watch your baby in pain. So yeah, I think he's lactose free. We were told it should be a temporary intolerance, but I'm starting to worry maybe it's a permanent intolerance, which is okay. It just means that weaning and stuff's a little bit more difficult. I have got a doctor's appointment this Friday to go and discuss it with them and see what we do, whether we carry him on lactose free for another month and try him again on normal formula, or whether we get him allergy tested. I'm not really sure what the best thing to do is, but we'll find out. But yeah, anyone that has like that kind of problem, I think colic is diagnosed really quickly, and I think it is worth looking at a lactose-free formula too, because I think it's really common for newborns to have a temporary intolerance to lactose and then they just kind of grow out of it. Let's talk about sleep. Sleep is pretty good, I would say. It's pretty good. He's not a great napper, like I've said before earlier on in the video. He likes to nap with me, and it's getting like we're getting there with daytime naps. Normally he'll nap in the pram or sling to get like a big sleep, but generally he has to sleep on me, which has been a pain in the arse before, but we are definitely getting there. He's waking up now. Sleep in day is like a little bit challenging, but we're getting there. Like he's just had quite a reasonable nap on his own in the bed whilst I've got ready, so you kind of can't knock him really. And then nighttime napping and nighttime sleep is good, I would say, but there are conditions to it. So when we first had him, it wasn't great. Like initially I thought he didn't like his Moses basket, so we bought him the Chico Next to Me co-sleeper, which actually really helped me because I had a Caesarian and I couldn't, like once I was lying down in bed, it was such a challenge to sit back up again, and if he'd just spat out his dummy or something like that, it was impossible. So just having a co-sleeper, at least I could like pick up his dummy and just put it back in his mouth, as opposed to like having to sit up, reach over. It was horrendous. Like the first few days of having a Caesarian, looking after your baby at night is almost impossible. So having the Chico really did help that. However, if I'd known what we were going to end up bed sharing, then that would have been ideal as well. So yeah, initially I thought he didn't like his Moses basket, so I bought him a £200 Chico Next to Me co-sleeper. His Moses basket also was like £120 once I bought the basket and the stand, because I bought a really nice one. So what we're talking, like £300 odd here on sleeping apparatus. And Rory sleeps in our bed from about 3 weeks on. He's always slept in our bed, and this is because when we first had him, yeah, about 3 weeks, he would only sleep on my chest, and then I'd have to get him into a deep sleep and transfer him across to his bed and hope for about an hour's sleep before he woke up again. I'd then feed him and do the whole process all over again. And it got to the point that I was getting so tired, I was falling asleep with him on my chest, and Rich would wake me up and he would have fallen off my chest onto the bed, which is obviously like a suffocation risk. Or I'd be like holding him and winding him and I'd fall asleep and he'd be like that, like flopped forward, and I'd be asleep. Like that would only happen for like 30 seconds, but I would just wake up and like shit. And I was having the worst mum guilt for doing this ever. Like it was just getting really, really bad. So I think, yeah, I'd spoken to Sophia, who in the blogging world is known as the tattooed tea lady, and she kind of said, why don't you practice bed sharing? I was not against it, but I just didn't like the idea at first. I was really scared because obviously with bed sharing, or like, I don't really know what it's like, I call it bed sharing, but no, I used to call it co-sleeping, but I think bed sharing is more obvious of what I'm saying. Yeah, but with bed sharing, you're constantly reminded of SIDS risks and how dangerous it is. So I didn't want to do it because that's just all I had in my head. But Sophia was like, right, at the moment you are risking your baby's life by letting him fall asleep on you and fall off the bed, like fall off you into the bed. So you'd be better to practice safely bed sharing where you have some control over what's going on. So that kind of stuck in my head. And then one night at 3 o'clock, when I was just desperate to get to sleep and he wasn't having it, I just put him on the bed next to me, both fell asleep, and he didn't wake until 8, which had never happened, and I felt amazing. So from then, so that's 3 weeks, he's now 10 weeks, so for 7 weeks he has slept in our bed. He sleeps really, really well, so he'll go down from like 11 till 2 or 4. Like it's normally those 2 times for whatever reason. There isn't like a set, it's one of those 2 times basically. I think it depends on how much he feeds at 11 as to how hungry he's going to be. So yeah, he'll normally sleep either 11 till 2 or 11 till 4, wake up at one of those times, and then go like 4 till 8 or 2 till 8, wake up again, and then normally go down 8 till 10. So really, really good sleeper in my eyes. I think that's quite well for his age. He has gone through a stage of sleeping all through the night, but to be honest, as amazing as it was, I also didn't like it. Like I really missed like the cuddles at like doing like night feeds. It's really a nice time to bond and cuddle, so I missed that. And also like I didn't really like him going the whole night without feeding at all, especially when he was so young. This is like when he was 6 weeks, so I felt like he should be waking up for some kind of food. So yeah, that's kind of his sleep routine, which I think is pretty good. We normally feel pretty refreshed, so I'm quite happy about it. Bed sharing isn't ideal. I don't really have a plan with it. I've never had a plan with it. Obviously people say like, how are you gonna get into his cot at 6 months? I don't know. All I can think about right now is the fact that I'm sleeping really well and operating really well as a mum, and I will cross the 6-month cot bridge when it comes. A lot of people have said that babies are just ready for their cot when they are, so I'm kind of thinking like fingers crossed, hoping that happens. I am going to try and stop putting him in his co-sleeper in the day for naps when I'm blogging, so I can sit next to him and he knows I'm there still, and we'll see how we get on. But to be honest, I'm kind of reluctant to do it anyway because I actually really like having him in the bed and cuddling him, so it's kind of selfish too, I suppose. I don't really want him to. For me, postpartum wise, I'm doing really, really well. I never thought I would say that. In the initial stages of having a baby, I felt like death basically. A Caesarian had really, really hit me quite badly. The recovery kicked me in the arse, and I really, really struggled with it. I've said really, really about 10 times for this bit. But yeah, I found it so hard. I wasn't expecting to have such a bad labour, and if you haven't found it already, then watch my labour and delivery story and we'll talk about it more in depth there. But yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be so long, I wasn't expecting to be so tired, and I really wasn't expecting Caesarean recovery to be emotionally so hard and also physically so hard. The emotional side of it took me about 4 weeks to get over, I would say, and I think that was also because I was having some problems with it. So obviously, like, I had anemia afterwards because I'd lost a lot of blood in surgery, and I had a blood clot risk, so I had to keep going back to hospital to have my legs scanned to make sure I wasn't having a blood clot. So I think the fact that I wasn't signed, like, discharged from hospital until about 4 or 5 weeks, so that I found really hard, that I was still being supervised for my labour, and I just couldn't put it behind me straight away. The recovery is so hard. You're in so much pain for the first week. The second week you're not quite right, and you're still dealing with the emotional baggage of a cesarean. Like, not everybody has emotional struggles, but I know a few people do, and I really struggle with it emotionally, which I wasn't prepared for, because I don't think people talk about the emotional recovery to cesarean. So I'm gonna do a whole separate video on how I felt about that. But yeah, so it took me a long time. The baby blues obviously hit at some point in there, and then yeah, postpartum body wise, I am so happy with my body. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I feel like I've got really lucky. I've lost all of the weight and then some, so I think I must have lost weight when I was pregnant and was all just baby. Oh, what's going on? Yeah, I got really lucky and back to being like how I was beforehand. You're gonna stand up? Yeah. Belly wise, it's still a jelly belly. Like, I think that all mums have that until they decide to do something about it. I'm not a great exerciser, so it'll probably be a permanent fixture now. I have stretch marks. I still have the linea nigra, like, brown line down my tummy, but yeah. And then my cesarean scar is healing quite nicely, I think. Like, it's still itchy and it's still numb. I think it will be permanently numb. Yeah, I don't think that sensation around the area is going to come back, but as a scar it's healing pretty well. You can't really see it, and I'm hoping when I wear a bikini, because I'm hoping to go on holiday this year, I'm hoping you won't even know. What else? Emotionally, doing really well. Obviously, if you watch my labour and delivery story, you'll know that I wasn't doing that well, and yeah, it took till about 4 weeks to kind of start feeling myself again, maybe 3 weeks, and yeah, 6 weeks I suddenly felt 100 times better than I've ever felt in my life. Being a mum is just the, oh, off you go. Being a mum is just the most amazing thing. It's given me so much confidence. It's kind of given me a lot of purpose and made my life really feel complete and lovely. Are you bopping about? Yeah, and at 6 weeks, it's kind of like riding a bike. It just kind of slotted in. I just knew what I was doing from about 6 weeks, I would say, and just felt really confident with my decisions. Then when it comes to newborn must-haves, I have a few at the moment. So my first one is the We Made Me Wooty wrap. Having a wrap is just a lifesaver. Like I said, from about 3 weeks he just wouldn't be put down for a nap at all, and I was stuck to the sofa one day going completely stir crazy. So bought the We Made Me Wooty wrap in some kind of mad panic attempt on next day delivery. I bought it in grey, which I probably wouldn't have even done, but was just desperate, and that was the only colour that Boots had. If I could go back, I would buy it in black, but I have it in grey, and I do actually quite like it in grey. I use it every single day, and I recommend that even if you're just pregnant at this point, just get a wrap. Like, I wasn't going to get one because I didn't think I would need one, but it is probably my #1 newborn essential at this point, especially. Without it, I couldn't go to the toilet sometimes. Like, I've been known to take him to the toilet in the wrap. I couldn't do his bottles at all. That, like, especially certain points, like now he's a lot better and will go on his mat for like 10 minutes, but there were certain points where if you put him down he would just scream. I couldn't wash his bottles, couldn't sterilise his bottles, couldn't, like, just couldn't move basically without taking him with me. So anything that involved 2 hands was a complete write-off. Couldn't, yeah, just couldn't do anything basically. So the We Made Me Wooty wrap is a lifesaver. Also, if you just want to pop to the shops really quickly, like, it's just easier to put them in a wrap sometimes. Another newborn essential is the Pure Flow Breathable Nest, and that is in combination with the Grow Bag swaddle blankets. Those two have started to allow me to have daytime naps, which I'm so appreciative. No, not him, not me, him. Yeah, him have daytime naps, which I'm so appreciative of. I really swore by the Nest as well, especially initially when he was having daytime naps, because it was just really handy to have him in something where you knew he was on the sofa and he kind of couldn't really go anywhere. And then he went through this phase where he wouldn't sleep and he just wouldn't go down the Nest, so I kind of packed it away. and I've recently got it out with swaddle blankets, and those two in combination it seemed to really help him have a nice big nap along with some white noise. The next one is the Bright Starts Lagoon activity gym, which is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. The second I saw it I was like, my baby will love that. As a pregnant mum, I wanted really stylish activity gyms, so I ended up buying him the one that's like a teddy bear and it's like white and cream and really aesthetically pleasing. My baby would never ever go on it. He hated it with a passion. Unless you played with him, he just wasn't having it, and I always thought he just didn't like activity gyms until I found the Bright Starts Lagoon, which is amazing. It's really, really colourful, not like the nicest looking thing. If you want a nice, like, you know, want aesthetically pleasing baby toys, it is pretty bright and garish, but that is essentially what babies like, and I just had to get over myself and think like, so it's bright blue and has like, yeah, I can't even think what's on it. I think it's got like jungle animals on it, and then it's got this canopy that goes overhead which has like a disco. It plays, like, it has loads of flashing lights, and as you know, newborns are obsessed with flashing lights, so he loves it. And yeah, that is a huge help. It's got a mirror in it as well, plays music, and it will buy me 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there. He really likes it. He gets stimulated. I don't feel guilty for just leaving him on his own. He's got something to watch and play with, and he likes it. And it didn't cost that much money. I think it was like £35 on Amazon. This is Rory at 2 months. Look at you. You gonna say hello? Look at how beautiful you are. He's so long, it's ridiculous. He weighs about, the last time he was weighed at 8 weeks, he weighed £12, so I probably put him at probably £13 maybe now at 10 weeks. I hope you enjoyed our 2-month update. I will do kind of more established videos on like postpartum recovery and stuff like that, because I do want to go more into detail in it, and I am going to do like more on his toys and stuff and how I entertain him during the day, because I think that's quite a big thing. It took me ages to find out ways to keep him stimulated during the day without feeling guilty. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you're not already. I will make sure that I do 3-month update, and my plan at the moment is that there'll be videos every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. So please stay tuned. There isn't going to be a set time, but obviously life with a newborn is pretty hit and miss, but that is my aim, to have them up Monday, Wednesday and Friday. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.